Hello, Ava. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
That's good. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Pleasure.
Now, Ava, you've started a school.
That's correct, yeah.
It's called the Spanda School, and it's based out of the Fibonacci Centre in Fremantle, just near the Fremantle Golf Course, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of or been to before. So can you tell us a little bit about how that got going, the genesis of it, perhaps, and why it's there? What work you're doing?
Long story, short story.
We've got plenty of time, Ava, so make it a long story and
Sure.
Get right into it.
I guess the abbreviated version would be that it started at the beginning of the year. When I knew that I was going to come home. I've been living overseas in communities, like practice communities, spiritual communities, for the past 5 years, teaching and studying.
Okay.
But I knew that I was coming home this year. My family's here, my partner is here, and I really wanted to set my roots back down. And this is home for me as well. And I knew that the school was going to open this year. And, I said last year, right? It was the beginning of last year.
Beginning of last year,
Beginning of last year,
okay.
right?
Right.
Yeah. And so that's basically when it all started, when I knew that this was going to happen this year. But where the initial impulse came from, it's been evolving for maybe 3 or 4 years, where I've been really inspired by all of these communities that I've lived in, that they've been places where people can go and learn esoteric information in a whole school with many different courses to choose from.
Sure.
Little different things that suit them. So a variety of different courses, and then a community that supports that. So you don't just go and learn and then go back home and you don't really get that chance to integrate it, but you're actually living in a community. And I love these places. I love these places in India, Thailand, and Mexico, but they're not my home, and they're not really the home of many other people.
Sure.
So the real genesis of this was to create a place in Australia, right down the road. So, in our neighborhood, that is a practice community.
Sure.
That is suitable for many different people. That are still having this like-minded aspiration for a spiritual path. So, we all have a different idea of what spiritual path means, of course, but ours is quite succinct, what a spiritual path is.
Sure. Yeah, right. Interesting. And so over your time having these different experiences in different parts of the world, you're able to learn and really understand what it was all about. And then once the time was right, I guess, which was last year.
Apparently.
Yeah. You thought, this is it, let's do it. And then so you started school up and it was at the Fibonacci Centre.
Yeah.
Was there a tale how like Spanda came about, or like the name, or is there just something that sort of presented and you went with?
Yeah. Many interesting things about the name. Was playing with different names for the center. Spanda School is a bit of a special kind of phrase because the Spanda School was an ancient school in a lineage that's very dear to me and to the schools that I've been studying.
What lineage is that?
Kashmiri Shaivism.
Okay.
Right? So
never heard of it.
So Kashmir, obviously this place in India. Actually a magical place that's kind of suspended in the mountains, but on lakes, and one of these just super stunning mystical places.
Right.
Kashmir. And then Shaivism is a people or a system that follows and worships and loves Shiva.
Okay. Right.
So Shaivism,
Sure.
opposed to Shaktiism.
Right. Is there a Shaktiism version as well? Okay.
Yeah, but not in Kashmir.
Okay.
In other places, maybe even in Kashmir, but Kashmir Shaivism is this very special lineage.
Right.
And Shiva, not as in the masculine aspect, but Shiva as in just pure consciousness Shiva.
Okay.
So the whole system is like crown chakra and up.
Right, okay.
Where many of our, even Hatha yoga and things, they deal with the entire being.
Mm-hmm.
This is just straight to the top.
Okay.
With an assumption that you understand and have balanced and have a really good hold on all the other stuff.
Right.
So it's just super, super to the top.
So it's more like a tertiary sort of thing. Like after you've done that work, it's then, okay, what sort of higher realms or states
now where do we go?
Are there? Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, definitely you can look at it like that.
Yeah.
And then the Spanda School is was a school within the Kashmiri Shaivism lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And the word Spanda means, it's got a huge philosophy behind it. But very briefly, what it's just understood as is the vibration of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so, the creative pulse of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we know that the universe isn't frozen or static. Even pure consciousness isn't static.
Mm-hmm.
There is an aliveness. There's a vibration in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's Spanda.
Okay.
So, if you think about the void itself,
Mm-hmm.
it had a desire to create.
Mm-hmm.
So that creative impulse, that isn't a vibration you could measure in time and space. Like, it's not a manifested vibration, but it's a transcendent vibration. So already it's like, super, super metaphysical stuff.
But we have the symbol of the flower of life, which is the manifestation of creativity and source, the void wanting to know itself as well. Yeah.
It would be a beautiful representation of Spanda.
Right, okay.
Really,
sure.
And there are so many, what's super synchronistic is, I'm pretty sure, I don't know so much about it, but I'm pretty sure the Fibonacci spiral would also be this Spanda.
Okay.
It's this vibration or this pattern
Mm-hmm.
in some way of creation.
Sure.
So
makes sense.
There was that nice link there someone pointed out at one point.
Nice.
But yeah, so this was where the name itself originated from. There was a Spanda school, and we love Spanda very much, and we use it in our meditations, and we use it in our practices as this aliveness of the heart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not as an abstract thing, but actually as something that can root us back into the heart and into rooting us into our true nature, but also something as a tool for revelation.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because it goes one way, but it also comes back,
Interesting.
We can follow that Spanda back in.
Right.
There's a whole meditation practice around it that we use, which is just one part of our whole meditation kind of system.
Right, okay. Nice.
And we were playing with different names of what the school should be called. And and then, we decided Spanda School. I asked one of my teachers, he was like, yeah, go for it, Spanda School. Didn't care. And I found a recording, like a self-hypnosis recording that I was using at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. And it was just all laid out in there, like, I am creating a Spanda School. And I was like, yes, it was already there.
Sure.
I thought I was choosing the name, but it was already pre-decided.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the name has come from.
Okay,
yeah.
Nice. And so you developed it and worked out somewhere that you could have the school, and so you picked the Fibonacci Centre, which is an amazing centre too. It's really just something about it,
There's something about it.
I think the people it draws a lot of interesting people there. So, everyone go and check it out. Please do.
Yes.
And what sort of things do you offer there? Or what, is it like, I know we spoke about like yoga and different educational platforms, meditation, etc. So do you just like have a look at it the most like holistic way possible, or do you have like a set structure depending on what's going on?
There's definitely a set structure. There's definitely a particular vision that we have, which kind of has these two parts. Like, we are a Hridaya meditation school as our basis, which is this whole kind of system. Hridaya is still very much alive today, in fact starting to blossom today, and it's a yoga of the spiritual heart. So including hatha yoga, meditation as a form of yoga, so path, and many other techniques about this revelation of what we are through the heart center.
Right.
And this is kind of our foundation. This is our main offering as the meditation course that we do. And our main aspiration is to build a community around Hridaya for people that want to practice Hridaya, because I know I do. And I know many other people do, but they can't get to the headquarters in Mexico or one of the other branches wherever they are.
Sure.
So for people who are drawn to practice Hridaya, whether they know what the word is or not, many people are drawn to practice something about the awakening of the heart.
Right, yeah. Which is where it's all at. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, sure.
So this is the kind of main aspiration of the school.
Yeah.
But we don't just offer Hridaya yoga. We also offer other forms of Hatha yoga, whether they be just plain Hatha yoga, yin yoga, Tantra yoga. So yoga using the body. We have like a timetable of that.
Yeah, nice.
Meditation course. And then we're also, our aspiration really is to use it as a space. Maybe this is just really a personal aspiration, but to use it as a platform for other people to start manifesting their life purpose.
Sure.
So whatever that may be.
Yep.
And then to kind of use the community space to launch that.
Brilliant. To really empower the person or people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And set an example that it's possible.
Yeah.
And provide the forum for where people actually talk about authentic life purposes.
Sure. The important stuff.
Important stuff, yeah. And then hopefully other people can also, so if people wanted to offer something that was their life purpose, which wasn't teaching Hridaya meditation, to provide the space for that as an offering from the school itself.
Brilliant.
And even like we have this friend who comes along to the meditation and yoga. His name's Ryan, and he does these beautiful water features that energize the water. He's got a couple of different businesses and platforms that he's done this from, and it's his passion. And we were like, yeah, put one here so people can, so this can be a, you know, a platform for you to kind of share that. And so it's just going to be that kind of mix of, it's not really going to be a mix, it's just going to be a lot of offerings from the heart. Right. Is what that we would hope that it would expand into. So we'd hope definitely that the center isn't limited to a yoga studio or even a yoga school, but actually a community that really starts to grow. Yeah,
nice.
Some of my friends are saying we should take over this block.
It would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Yeah. And I mean, there's no reason why not. And
Absolutely not.
I think especially when you're doing something that's definitely, obviously you've seen this as well, witness this, that it's all well and good to do like a workshop or do some sort of practice that might go over like a night, a day, a weekend, but it's the time afterwards which is the trickiest. And especially when we're living in a city and in a society like this, it can be quite hard to integrate some of those things that we've learned and really achieved. And often there is a lack of support for that integration, but it sounds like what you're able to do is like through the building of a community is offer that support, a bit of a structure that people may need to really then integrate and push forward with what they want to do. And I feel like that's definitely the way of the future as far as these sort of communities and social groups go, where it's not just about, okay, good work, you had an awesome experience and a lightning experience, off you go now and go change the world. It doesn't work that way. You know, I feel like we've started to realize that. So I feel like it's just an utter importance that we do have something inbuilt that's systematic to this awakening that's going on that really does support everyone.
It's got to change.
Yeah.
The entire world has to change.
Sure.
Everyone has to offer their purpose.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to be wiped out because they're not going to fit the vibration of, I'm not saying that we're all going to lift up into a vibration, but something's happening next.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you're not basically connecting and awakening, and it's not going to fit. And if your whole entire community isn't doing that, that's also not going to fit. I mean, I have a strong idea that things are changing, and
everyone's talking about it, Ava.
Everyone's talking. Only I.
Everyone. I say that, but is that just like everyone I know and you possibly know? But something's definitely going on.
I think that as well.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it too. But yeah.
And they've been, you know, knowing that it's coming up. They've been knowing for millennia that something is going to shift for us, obviously, you know?
Yeah.
And I know I'm changing. So of course the world is changing around me, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. I think we've all got now a lot more autonomy over how we lead our life and how we change, and we're breaking out of that. Like obviously religion can be a part of it, where it does keep you quite fixed and can keep you quite, like it's sort of the antithesis of evolution, like can be if it's practiced in the wrong way. Any sort of thought forms or patterns that people develop, it can keep you sort of structured. But what I think and set, I suppose. But what we're seeing now is with people being able to be a lot more autonomous. They're able to go, oh, okay, I'm going to get some information from over here and get some information over here, and yeah, this really works for me, so I'm going to go ahead with that. We didn't have that as a species for a long, long time. It's only been a recent development.
Like 10 years.
10 years, something like that, definitely, yeah. And I think definitely, we were speaking to a friend about it the other day about how like 2012, that whole December 21st, 2012 thing, I'm not into the conspiracy theory side of things and all that too much. Yeah, I find it interesting, but I try not to pay too much attention to it, or attach to it, I should say. But like something definitely feels like from that time onwards, there's been a marked shift in the way people come together, way people communicate, way people find each other especially, and then what they do, what we're doing now in the present moment has changed quite a bit. Also perhaps because our economics has changed quite a lot a bit. We're moving out of that economic thing of like the industrial revolution. We're moving much more into a technical age, where again we're much more autonomous in what we want to do. And
and you think that's happened since 2012?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's been going on for the last sort of 10-15 years, but definitely 2012 with this technological thing that's going on as part of
every
this.
year it's a new age, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
12.
Yeah, I think it's just like we're on the beginning of some exponential rise, some exponential curve into a future where I don't really feel like we're going to have any understanding of what the future is going to be. It's going to be something, hopefully, and because something needs to change, definitely. And I think what you're doing and what other people are doing, it's like it's preparing people for this change that is inevitable and it's going to come, to build some sort of like resilience perhaps, or build some understanding or knowing of what's going on, tuning in or tapping in or grounding to what it is, so that when whatever occurs does occur, people will be ready. And perhaps we're just slowly at the moment just building more and more people to become ready, I guess. Yeah. Have you seen that's like perhaps have you seen like a noticed effect in the last few years, or is there a time where you thought, wow, something's really starting to change now, whether it's in yourself or the people around you?
I could only say that it's within myself.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
I could only really say that.
Yeah.
But what otherwise that I've heard from, you know, yogic texts and all of these kind of prophecies about that things are changing, whether it's in 100 years. I don't think it would be like in the next couple of years. But I feel like, something is for sure definitely shifting. And I've just kind of seen the only thing that's important is me just doing the things that I need to do.
Sure.
And what you were saying about this resilience, about preparing people, building up their resilience, I don't so much feel like this is exactly what the school is about, because I feel like that's what any self-help anything does, is build up your resilience to your own ego, you know, and to the pain and suffering of either the external world that your ego shows to you, or that, you know, your own ego. So it's always building up that resilience. But honestly, my main vision is that the school will just keep doing something that is like nothing that has ever been done before.
So it's novel. Yeah.
Because that for me is the only, like what I've seen from my own experiences, is that's the only way to go. Sure. Is to make sure that it's nothing like ever was before. You know? Yeah. In myself. Yeah. Like that's how I approach my own kind of personal development. And also the school, of course, is going to reflect that perfectly. It's just going to reflect my growth, really. Definitely, yeah. That something needs to keep changing and expanding and opening up. And every step before is just a little guidance to what that next step could possibly be. So it's really, what's that next step of just novel.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we spoke about a little bit before the podcast, before we press the record button. But yeah, I think I guess resilience you could easily supplant with the word surrender. Like enable. I think it's something that a lot of people find it quite tough to actually be able to surrender and sink into what's happening and not try and control it. Yeah, because I think definitely I think that's a big part of it, because if we're trying to control too much what's happening, then it's just going to slip through our fingers and we're not going to be able to really grasp it properly. But learning to like surrender and just again, I think we spoke about that term, like go with the flow as well, is an important aspect of our society now, which again I don't think we had for a long time. But now we're like a bit more aware of, okay, cool, this is all what's going on. What can I do? What can I create? What can I bring into this world that's ultimately going to benefit myself and those around me? That's what leaves me brilliantly optimistic for the future, is that there's more people choosing to do that.
Absolutely. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's fantastic though. But this, like you were speaking about before, I think, is it necessary? Like you dare say it would be necessary when you look at sort of how we're treating ourselves and the earth itself, Mother Earth, and there's some sort of necessity, it feels like, coming into it now. And the fact that we can now all communicate, or most of us communicate through the interwebs, and we can group and we can share experiences, it's really helping to facilitate something in, breeding something that's new and creative, and that's can hopefully supply people with, everything they need to get and live by and be happy and content. And that's a world I think we're all looking for. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, that's definitely a high aspiration for society, one of the higher aspirations for society, that we can come back and harmonize with the earth.
Sure.
And along the lines of surrender, for sure, like you said, the school is going to be a training ground for surrender. And we use surrender as synonymous with openness.
Right.
And synonymous, like all of these terms we use them interchangeably for pure awareness and the present moment. So surrender is not just letting go of external situations, or not just letting go. Of course, these are the partial surrenders
that
we speak about. So partial surrender is letting go of particular circumstances. And what that leads to is a full surrender, which is a complete presence in the moment and a mini awakening.
Right.
Where your eyes are open to not what you thought and what you were doing and what you needed, and everything that the partial surrender is trying to let go of a little bit. Hopefully that leads you into a full surrender, which is a pure openness, which is a pure awareness, and which is just a direct experience of the moment as it is. And you can't just live in full surrender all the time, but maybe we can.
Possibly.
Maybe we can.
Yeah, if our environment dictates it, perhaps, or not dictates it, allows for it. Yeah. So I'm really interested to hear about your travels, if we can touch on that a little bit as well, like beforehand, and what you do with that. I have to say it's a personal reason, because I'm about to head off to the US and Mexico and possibly South America as well for a few months. So, and to do very much, I guess, briefly talking about it, what you've done in the past. But if I could just perhaps ask you about I'm sure there's a myriad of things that you gained out of those travel experiences of India and Mexico. And where did you grow up?
I was born in Canada.
In Canada, okay. Whereabouts?
Near Toronto.
Near Toronto, okay. Beautiful city, Toronto. I love that place.
I left when I was 15.
Oh, did you?
Kind of like how Mandurah is to Perth.
Right, okay.
I lived over there.
Okay, sure, cool. And then, so you travelled around, and I mean, what during that travel period? I mean, I don't know if this is going to be too broad a question, but like, what is it you really discovered about yourself and really realised about yourself and the world that has helped you to be the person you are now and do what you are now?
It is a super broad question, because when I set out on the path, I was a total fresh baby. Okay. On the path.
How old were you?
Oh, in terms of emotional and mental and psychological maturity.
Right, okay, sure.
I was 22. And
still trying to figure shit out. And
no, I had figured it out.
Oh, had you? Okay.
I got it down pat.
Okay,
and I
cool.
was living in Sydney.
Right, okay.
And I was, super smart and very controlling, very manipulative, that I had controlled and manipulated my circumstances the best that I could with what I knew. So I made sure I always had enough money for, drugs, and I always, had a boyfriend, and I had everything perfect, and I made sure I was taking care of my health in the way that I needed to look the way that I wanted, and all of the things. So I had sorted it out perfectly. And I was absolutely fucking miserable, just so empty, Oh God, it was terrible,
It's like a discontent that comes in with it somewhere around there.
Oh, the suffering.
That's my own personal experience, but yeah, sure.
Discontent is so mild, to that deep suffering.
Mm.
And so actually I was living in Sydney, and one day I went to a Buddhist talk, and something about that talk absolutely just... It was the first time that there was guidance, and I was open to it, and it was different because I was being guided by the media and by society. So those were my guides for how to be successful, and I was doing the best job that I could, and I was doing a really great job. Because I was very successful in society because I was very addicted to drugs and all the other things. These are
the things that
examples.
breed like excellence and really pushing yourself and being successful in quotations.
Partying super hard.
So
I was very successful, but this was a new form of guidance that came in that was like, be compassionate, and if you don't procrastinate, you might actually do something good. And it was very, very worldly talk, but from a Buddhist speaker. And I was just like, what? And just started following him, and dumped my boyfriend and left Sydney and left everything, and was like, tell me where to go next. And he sent me to this tantric school, tantric yoga school in Thailand, Agama, that I was telling you about. And I couldn't believe it, So I was a fresh baby. They talked about energy, and I was so numb. Numb, and about love and all these things. And you can't be numb to love, There was some spanda there. There was some vibration there that I was like, okay, this is right, 100%. This is right. This is perfect, And of course, at that point, I was still coming from my mind. I was like, this is a way more complete worldview than anything I've ever had before. Of course, that even evolved. That was my stepping stone, really. All that beautiful metaphysical philosophy and everything. So, I was a total fresh baby when I first started. So what I've learned since then is, a lot. Academically, I've learned a lot about how human beings as a culture and as individuals, how we function and why. And, lots of things, because it wasn't all just mystical beautiful things. It was really like, this is what you are. Can't you see that? You have these organs that perceive outside, and you also can turn inward and perceive a total, you've got etheric organs that can perceive your energy fields and your emotions and many other interesting things. So learned a lot, and now I'm a teacher. And I like to teach those things, so much things. Especially having totally dedicated myself to that pursuit of knowledge. First it was knowledge, then it was wisdom, then it was love. So, but first I just was like, whoa, I want to learn all of these things. I've always been a student, and I'm still
and always will be, I'm sure.
Such a student, and always just more knowledge kind of thing. Of course, that thirst of knowledge has gone down, because it's no longer a desperate thirst to give me some knowledge. I need knowledge. I don't know what I'm doing here, kind of thing, And then, of course, luckily enough, I didn't always have that real thirst to find out my purpose. It was always kind of there.
Okay, sure.
I always knew that I would be a teacher, because I love to share knowledge, and I can articulate it and disseminate information, easily. So I always kind of knew that, luckily. But what I wanted to teach, I thought I knew as well. But yep, that would probably be one of the biggest things that I've learned, would be what my purpose is and how that flows.
And so what about how you felt, and how you felt specifically about yourself as well? during that time and how that shifted and yeah. Even if it did shift, it might have changed or stayed the same, or
I guess the way that I felt about myself as a person and as an ego hasn't really shifted. It's definitely expanded and softened and loosened up that tight grip of what I think I am and the judgments that I made upon myself. But I'm the same person that I always have been. Like, I'm always going to be this Ava personality.
Sure.
Even though I'm maybe purified in some regards, hopefully.
Sure.
I'm still always the same kind of person. I haven't totally shifted. Where I've purified, though, of course, has been an immense process, physically, emotionally. The purging and the purification and the shining of the light on those dark places has been beautiful and intense and dark and all of the things at once, for sure. That's a broad question.
Yeah, sure. And that's something that's can go into a book for many people, isn't it? That whole process itself. And
you don't even want to step back into that,
Yeah, sure. But it's an important, I think, aspect and facet of being a human being, which perhaps, like, I'm very similar to you. I'm very interested in how people come together and how cultures operate. And so part of my university degree is I studied anthropology and sociology to understand, like, I just find it all fascinating. And it seems to be like a huge part of our past, and also in certain cultures now of really looking into oneself and like you said, shining that light on your traumas, your,
I agree.
whatever it may be.
I agree that it's a very important thing, but for the content of what was the light shone upon, that's why I was like, ugh, like, why would I write a book on that? But what I am very interested in, like you said, is the important thing, which is how to shine that light.
That's the most important thing, definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I don't feel like anyone
you
should have to like
share
it. Exactly. But it's a book's worth of information. Yeah, perhaps it's not.
Yeah, but it is a book's worth of it. And of course, when we write that book and we talk about how to shine that light, of course, those particular examples, you're right. Those particular examples, like, when I was looking at that particular thing.
Sure.
Maybe that is, relevant, but the biography and stuff and all of the content is absolutely insignificant. It's about how we shine that light. And of course, that's where the transformation has come, because I'm loaded with impurities, but how I look upon them is absolutely different. There, I'm a totally new person,
right?
A totally different person. How I approach myself and the path and the world, that's where I'm unrecognizable to before, Yeah. My impurities remain and I embrace them, and also the ways that I've kind of let some of those go.
Yeah.
But it's really not those, in the end, the world is just going to reflect how you don't accept those impurities.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
The impurities themselves aren't the most toxic thing. They're absolutely momentary.
Yeah.
And relative. Totally relative. My impurities are totally pure for someone else, and my purities are Jesus's worst faults.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's it. I think and everyone's just at different stages with that, and different levels. And I've got a really firm understanding, it was a couple of nights ago, how, like, those aspects of me that I'm still working with and shining the light on, shall we say, that how they manifest. Because there's an event that came up recently, and I was asked to be a part of it originally, and at the time I was like, nah, it's just a bit of a hassle. I'm not going to worry about it too much. And that's the energy I came at it with. I didn't feel like I was fully in service to what was trying to be created, and it was by someone who I love tremendously and have worked on other things with. And then, so when the time came to be a part of this thing, I just had I was feeling really good about things in life, and everything else was really cool. But that actual thing itself, because I still had that energy there, that's what then manifested when I was there.
Ooh,
and I I went along to it, and it was just really interesting. It was the first time I really got a full understanding of, like, we do have the potential to create a lot of our like the world around us, and including our joy and our pain, our suffering, and and I'd sort of known that as like a theoretical thing, but for the first time I think I really got to play it out, like how that is. But then it was also just an absolute gift as well, because I was like, oh wow, that's something, I've created this feeling within myself because of this. Imagine, and then I start thinking about the things I've created out of joy, and like how they've manifested and how they've really brought me a lot of, I don't know, just amazing gifts. Yeah. And so operating from that place of, rather than from a place of fear and lack and perhaps, I don't know, something that's stymieing, creating it from a place of love and abundance. But it's getting to that space there first, isn't it? Because I think a lot of our world is predicated on creating out of fear and scarcity and getting over the top of the next man and next woman and whatever it is. So perhaps that's the paradigm that's changing as well, Ava, in that's we're moving away from a fear-based cultural setup into more of a love-based.
You think so?
To go as really hippie woo-woo on it.
As a culture?
I think so. I really believe that. And I think it's tied into like this, I don't know, it feels like there's this empathy that's starting to develop between people, and that's been lacking for a long period of time. Not just empathy towards people we're surrounded around, but also empathy from people from other countries, cultures, which we never had for a long period of time. So now it's like there's more people like, I don't know, do we really need to be going to war with that guy over there or that woman over there, or have this child be inflicted upon because of our own bullshit? I feel that's what's starting to change. Yeah. Slowly but surely.
Yeah. And then speeding up.
Yeah, definitely. But at the moment, there's still like a those who still don't see that, who still very much live in that world of fear and scarcity, and that's what drives them. And it's just unfortunate that sort of drives most of the world at the moment. Yep. Shouldn't get too pessimistic about it all, Ava, of course, because I'm also very understanding of how beautiful this world is and the amazing gifts it has and how fucking awesome people are as well. Like, I love people. So there's lots of great things about it, but there's just some small things that could do with changing, and it just, step by step. That's it. It's getting there. But like you said too, it's also getting quicker, and which is fantastic.
And it's our experience, you know?
Yeah,
I know that the greatest, the most beautiful things for me have been when I've been more empathetic to that child across the world being afflicted by bullshit.
Sure.
You know? Yeah. That's what enlightens me or brings, me to actually feel like something has changed.
Sure. You know? Yeah.
I know lots of people really like to see that happen on the outside. But really what feels more beautiful, if you actually feel into it, of course, is when we actually, make those little changes about how we interact with the world. Yeah,
it's very much about that, isn't it? Really starting from just yourself and really just changing that world, and everything else does spring out from that.
It's real.
It's real, actually authentic. Real. Yeah. And I find the authenticism part of it, when you really I shouldn't say look at yourself, when you really be with yourself and understand why you do the things you do and what's created your actions and perspective on life, that leads to an authenticism. You're not like trying to kid yourself or delude yourself. And then that authenticism is what you attract in your life, both with people, but also might be your vocation, your school education, your leisure activities. They become much more aligned with who you are. And so, I think what you said earlier about like how when you were living in Sydney, you were like trying to control it as in response to what you saw as the most effective way to be as a human being, which isn't your most effective way to be as a human being. And that really can take a toll. And I think that's where still a lot of people are at, where they're just, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Billions of people.
It's because of we're all just following our authorities and the guidance. We all need guidance. We're all, since we were kids, we were looking for guidance.
Sure. Yeah.
And I had the guidance, I had the guidance from my parents, not so much because I didn't want to listen to them, but of course from society, because for some reason that's what I was attracted to as a role model. So those were, I just kept listening to what I thought was right. And then I saw the power of this new type of guidance. And that's what I think is, you know, many people say, oh, you're on the spiritual path your whole life. You know, everything is part of the spiritual path. For me, there was a distinct shift towards the spiritual path when I found this whole other way of being. Because yes, we're always on a path. But when it becomes a spiritual path, in my perspective, is when you start to be guided in a very obviously different way, in a spiritual way.
Yeah.
And of course, my understanding of spirit is this present moment, or of the kind of oneness principle of nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah.
Right? The transcendent part. So if we start that to become our path, it's a very different path from anything that our ego was ever taught.
Definitely.
Because we first had to learn how to be human.
Yeah.
And if in this life we next want to learn something else, then that's our choice, and we can start to go onto the spiritual path.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, I really
Very
feel
different.
very different. Yeah. And that to me, that big difference is like in that old system or old setup, the rewards are material. So you do well, successful, then you've got the nice car, the nice house, the big screen TV, all the stereotypes I can label. Yeah. But the reward, for lack of a better word, when it's more of the spiritual path, what you are able to manifest it's of materialism, it's synchronicities and it's experiences, dharma, things that you just thought like you really do not have any control over. And that's such a much more content, peaceful way to live. It really is. And all the other stuff just doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. There's stuff about worrying about this or worrying about that. It just doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. And it's not just so much all those stereotypes that the first path is about. Of course, you are working towards the, you know, car and everything. But, you know, that's probably a very small percent of humans if you actually think about how many humans are on the planet. Very true.
The ones that the path that they're actually working towards is surviving the next day.
Good point. Over.
Am I going to have enough food or whatever, you know? Or to just make it, you know? Exactly like you said, it's a totally material path where you're just trying to live and exist as a human being without dying.
Sure.
And of course, then the opposite path would be about how to exist in a totally different way as just pure existence and trust that the body will survive because this is its you know, this is its purpose. This life is to serve you in this way.
Yeah, that's what it's meant to be.
Thing.
Yeah. Do you feel then there's like our Western capitalistic structure and model where it is very, very materialistic? Do you feel that might be like the resistance or the springboard we need to be able to understand our spiritual nature more?
What do you mean?
Do you know what I mean? Like, so if we've grown up in a world that's very materialistic and all about, you know, the outside and how people perceive us from the outside, like there's only so much of that I think many people can take before they have nervous breakdowns, suicides, develop cancer, all those things that inflict us as society. But ultimately, it's that pressure, it's that pain, or perhaps even suffering that actually pushes us into another state. Like we want to achieve something else where we're detached from all that, and a spiritual path is quite often the way to do it. You know? And not that that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just the way it is. But compared to someone who is just, you know, living in a third world country, who's just living day to day, just trying to, like you said, find food, for them it's not really a thing. You know, it's not, they don't have that resistance or that push. Springboard, exactly. You know, it's that, it's about that polarity. You'll only have as much energy to move into the spiritual path as you have the kind of, the polarity brings that energy to it, you know? Yeah. It brings that pull to the other side as much as you've been drawn to the other side kind of thing. Of course, it's going to go both ways. Sure. But interestingly, how you said that, you know, we've been brought up in a world that has these materialistic, Western, capitalistic, all of these things, focus. I think that the world is just reflecting, again, it's just our journey. We grew up and the world reflected back to us the values that as little egos we thought was most important. And then the other side is, of course, a totally different view of that, yes, those might have been important, but they're not the ultimate.
You know, we are somehow seeking some ultimate.
Yeah.
Always. What's the end game?
Sure.
Always.
Yeah.
So, you know, there is definitely something way beyond the West,
Mm.
you know, and society.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting how we can get so bogged down, perhaps, or
bogged down.
very insular in the way we live and the way we have been designed, I guess. But I think that's what the fantastic thing about traveling is when you go traveling, it's like, oh, actually, wow, the way I live isn't the norm, and then you go somewhere else and, well, that's different to that, and then that's different to that, and really gives you that objective experience where you're able to go, oh, okay, there's many different ways to live your life, and in many different situations. Just so happens I was born into one circumstance here in this part of the world, but the ultimate thing is that it doesn't define me. It shouldn't define me, whereas I think a lot of people do become defined through where they live and where they've been brought up, especially
identified with their ego and with the, you know, how they perceive the moment. But that's not what we are, you know?
No. Yeah. And so with the Spanda School, you've been set up for how long now? How many months have you been operating for? Or?
We only moved into this current space about not even a month ago.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yep.
Brand
new school, brand new space. Of course, it's been functioning through me teaching in Australia for maybe the past 4 years. I've been coming back teaching a little bit.
Okay.
Not under the name Spanda School, as I said, it just came up only this year. And interestingly enough, there's a story that I always love to tell, where, you know, this upgrade in the Elizabeth Quay that they've done.
Yes. Yeah, I checked it out last week.
Did you see that?
It's pretty good.
Statue?
The double one with the white one. Yeah. It's got like one big one and a little one.
Ones.
Yeah.
It's got maybe 4 or 5 actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
and it almost looks like a vibration.
Yeah.
It's called Spanda.
Is it really? Is that what that installation is called, Spanda?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I spoke to the architect, who was a Kashmiri Shaivist scholar, basically.
Okay.
And it's Spanda, the vibration of consciousness, basically, is what this is.
Cool.
So we're like, synchronicity.
Yeah.
You know? Of course, this is what the school's supposed to be called.
Sure.
And so significant that, you know, we've both brought Spanda into the heart of Perth. Basically, this vibration right into the heart of Perth.
Brilliant.
So that's pretty auspicious.
Yeah. I love that stuff because I've studied landscape architecture, or that's what I just finished last year, and implementing and bringing patterns in or designs that have this resonance about it, even if the people so powerful and people might not even be able to pick up on it, you know, they might not be aware of it, but just them being there, it's all it takes. You look at like a building, it can be a lot of like some of the most amazing temples in the world, especially from prehistory, have got this amazing design of like follows a golden ratio and you know, certain harmonics that these buildings and these patterns, it sings a song. Like we're able to build things that sing a song, and even though might not be totally aware of what that song is, just being in that presence,
in your energy field and the different bodies,
and incorporate. It's not. I don't. That's like the most scientific, rational way I can like see it as being like that interpretation of our melding into consciousness or into spirit is through the objects that we have in our life. And when we build things like you know, different symbols, different structures, you know, it's a massively important thing, I feel, in communities and in social dynamics. So yeah, to do something like that, like a Spanda installation in the middle of like a really important part of Perth is fantastic.
Everyone's walking around it.
Yeah.
Hopefully the plaque will explain it properly. I mean, it's in the media, it's been described as Spanda, the vibration of consciousness. You know, that's what the word means. So hopefully the plaque will explain it as well.
Sure.
Just to plant that extra seed in there.
Yeah, and maybe get people thinking about it like, oh, okay, I might go have a research into that and look into that a bit more and what's all that about. Yeah.
Spanda School.
Yeah. It's cool. I went to actually the night I went there, went to Annalakshmi as well to go grab some dinner and then walk around. And if you guys haven't been down there, Elizabeth Quay, it's pretty cool.
Very good.
Yeah, so you know, perhaps you'll go down there and become enlightened now as well.
Yes,
you know.
Absolutely. It's guaranteed.
Yeah. And what are some of your? I mean, it's I guess I'm talking to you briefly about it before. You're just sort of seeing how you go with the school, but do you have any thoughts or ideas of where you'd like to take it and what you'd like to do with it in the future?
Very clear.
Okay,
you know,
cool.
It's, we're seeing how we're going, but the vision's very clear, is that the school itself in Fremantle, in the city, will be a space where people can incorporate the teachings, the community, and that vibration and that support in their daily lives, as they will be living, obviously, around Perth.
Sure, yeah.
It'll be a launch pad for a retreat center where we can do long retreats.
Yeah, brilliant.
Long meditation retreats,
yep.
solitary retreats, group retreats. And this is really my vision or my passion. Of course, there's a part of me that loves to be in the city and loves to be around people all the time. But really, the stillness is my home.
Right.
So somewhere in, we think mainly down south, somewhere might be beautiful, although I really love the hills up here.
Yeah.
And I also really love up north.
Sure. And the coast is pretty good too.
The coast is good too. So is Fremantle.
Yeah.
And to have a retreat center for longer retreats.
Yeah, cool.
That's it.
Yep, nice.
That's definitely the vision.
Yeah. I think, my friend Honey keeps telling me to always say I feel. So I feel that that's going to be something that's going to be very important in the future. I think there's going to be more demand for that in the future, where people want to be able to get away for a period of time, whether it's for like a weekend, a week, 10 days, a month, and be able to go there and have a bit of a reset is the most important thing. Like all throughout our tribal communities, Indigenous communities all through the world, it's about, having periods of time where you go away for a certain period of time, coming back, whether it's Jesus with his 40 days or 40 nights or Buddha underneath the Bodhi tree, but having that period where you can just go away, have a reset, and then come back into the world. World.
And the world is very different from Buddha and Jesus's time, where
very much so.
to reset and to come back in, you'll reset. You'll reset back into the city.
Sure.
Right? So you'll keep resetting back and forth.
Maybe not fully though, reset back into the city.
Never fully. We're always growing.
Yeah.
But substantially to reset and
sure.
go back in. And of course you'll always have that very, very distant taste, like you do of that last dessert that you just had.
Yeah.
You are changed from that dessert. It was a peak experience.
I love that analogy, Ava. What dessert are we talking about here?
Yeah, what are we
Coconut ice cream.
It was brownie.
Okay. Oh, I love chocolate brownies.
It's a really good brownie.
Nice.
So I have that sweet taste.
Cool.
But does it actually affect anything that I'm doing, except for the desire to go back and taste it? For
sure.
So
sweet. Yeah, nice.
So yeah, of course, to reset is important, but just another aspect of it is beyond just resetting back into something that we've ever known before, but actually to give us a peak experience.
Sure.
Which that brings us into a new level, to a new plateau. And then hopefully with having the school still anchored in the city, people can come back. And those will be like those resets back to the peak experience. Yeah,
nice.
Kind of
I get you. Yeah, definitely. Like remembering
Absolutely. It's always a remembrance.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah, I think if we can definitely get more and more spaces like set up where it is very broad, like so there's a massive amount of things you can do there. I'd love to see one day like a real change in our education system, especially when it comes to children who may exhibit some differences or some abilities that...
Of course they do.
Yeah, instead at the moment we sort of beat them out of it or put them on pharmaceutical drugs or whatever it might be, but to have something that's a bit more facilitating of that. But also for adults and teenagers, whether it's like... yoga, meditation, plant medicine work, whatever it may be, whether, with artistic resonance, wherever it might be, I think... Yeah. That's going to be the way of the future, and I truly believe that it's creativity that's going to save our bacon. Like it's going to be creativity that really prevents us from imploding on ourselves, but we need to build the structures, we need to build the framework to facilitate creativity. And that's, I feel that's what's happening, and that's what's terribly important about schools like what you have. It's you're allowing people the space to be able to just create and just experience something new, and perhaps someone's going to come through your doors, Ava, who comes up with something or thinks of something or brings something into this world that could change the world, you know.
Yeah.
It's definitely a possibility.
Hopefully every person.
Hopefully every person.
That creativity is, you know, that is the Spanda. There is some, of course, we think about creativity as art most of the time, but to be able to create and expand and serve your purpose is the highest form of creation.
Sure.
You know, that's the most potent form. That's the most heart-opening and inspiring and beautiful form of creation.
Yeah,
is
very
to
much
just
so.
follow that impulse and move towards it. And like you said, surrender and open and just experience and really exist on a totally different kind of wavelength, you know?
Yeah. Ava, I think that's a brilliant way to end the podcast. Yeah. I love the creativity side of things. And it's fantastic, very important. And
let's embrace that.
Yeah.
For sure.
How can people find you, Ava, and how can people find the school? And
quite easily. So, like we've been saying, it's called Spanda School, Spanda, like panda.
Cool.
And
you just have to pronounce it fancy. Yeah, not Spanda like we do in Australia.
Yeah, of course you guys all do. Like I said, it's a Sanskrit word, so originally it's pronounced like that, but you can call it Spanda. I just cannot.
Fair enough.
And so, of course, spandaschool.com is the website.
Okay.
And most of our events are on social media, like Facebook.
Yep.
And of course, if you head down to the Fibonacci Center, Fremantle, that is where we're currently housed in a beautiful studio on the top floor.
It's on Blinko Street.
Blinko Street, big purple building. Cannot miss it.
Cannot
miss
it.
Spirals all over it.
Sure.
It's very obvious.
Yeah.
And there's a cafe, and it's a big artist warehouse, so it's a hub of creativity.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to bring some fresh energy into that place and really see what forces combine. And like you said, who's going to walk through the doors? There's just beautiful people walking through the doors every day. It's
fantastic.
It's already just a giant success. It's beautiful.
Well, of course, Ava, that's a massive reflection of yourself and the work you've put in and who you are, and obviously your mother as well, of course. So
absolutely,
well done on doing it. And I've seen a fair few of your things get up. I saw the one on Sunday, Ava. You've got a cacao yoga, which looks fantastic. So I've been thinking about coming along to that.
So that'll be the last one because Lani, the teacher, is going back to Guatemala to recharge with the shamans.
Funny you say Guatemala because I've got a strong pull to go to Guatemala.
You'll see her there.
Painting, or that picture up there is from based on scenes in Guatemala. And I was talking to another friend the other day. So anyway, perhaps after this podcast or some other day, I'll chat to you about Guatemala and Lana.
You'll have to meet up with Lani.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll definitely, I'm coming on Sunday then. I'm
yeah,
gonna make sure I'm
talk
there.
to Lani. She's, it's so good.
Cool.
Everything that we're holding there is just amazing. Like the feedback has been incredible. That's when you know.
Sure. Yeah, that's fantastic, Ava. Yeah, I'm stoked to hear, and I'll put up some links as well for the website and the Facebook page as well. I'll put it on the YouTube channel and also put on the Facebook link for this podcast as well.
Perfect.
Is there anything else you wanted to have a chat about?
No, this has been one of those other signs that, how beautiful it can be to just share and talk, and that everyone is actually, the people that we know are actually very interested in these things.
Definitely. God bless the internet. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
And thank you, Ava. And I'd love to have you on again sometime.
Yeah, we'll chat again.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good. Yeah. And until then, and see you later, everyone. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.